Welcome to Port Charles Confidential Case Files. We follow the breadcrumbs so you don't have to.
Hey, it's Shanice with the Port Charles Confidential Case Files. Be sure to subscribe, like, and sign up for notifications.
Okay, so yes, this is a Who Shot Drew story, but GH isn't just writing a mystery. They're writing a relationship collapse, because the real weapon in this storyline isn't the gun. It's what the truth cost. And once Port Charles decides who to protect, friendships crack, marriages strain, families go to war. The case won't destroy them. The fallout will. And it spreads on contact. We know Trina and Kai go to Alexis first. That's locked. But the real story is about what happens after that. Because once Alexis hears it, Trina and Kai are standing at the fork in the road. Do they keep it contained? Do they go wider? Do they protect someone? Or do they protect the truth, no matter who burns? And GH loves this kind of fork because it turns knowing into a choice. And choices are where relationships die. Now here's the big tell. Alexis speaks with Diane sooner than expected, at least sooner than I expected. So we're not in Alexis is thinking about acting. We're in legal strategy territory. Containment, positioning. Because Alexis knows a courtroom doesn't just decide guilt. It decides custody, credibility, and who the town treats like collateral damage. And the second Diane is in the mix, that means Alexis is preparing for an outcome, not just an argument. Here's where this becomes a nightmare. If Michael gets charged, the court can reshuffle custody fast. Temporary custody could swing toward Willow, even partial. And that's the moment Alexis turns her rage inward. Because she'll look at herself and think, I put a dangerous woman near children. I trusted the wrong thing. And Kristina will be livid. And she won't just be livid at the situation. She'll be furious with Alexis. Because in Kristina's mind, Alexis protects her children, her family, and somehow Michael always ends up paying. Kristina hates Willow. She hates Drew. And she will hate any version of reality where Michael has to share custody with Willow. Or if he loses custody. Or even worse, if he's in Pentonville waiting for his trial. And here's the emotional echo that makes this land. It's reminiscent of when Alexis discarded Sonny's gun, thinking that Kristina shot Agent John Cates, which Alexis did to protect her daughter. She even devised a plan to put Kristina in a mental health facility. And Kristina was, at least in my read, unrightfully enraged, but enraged anyway. So we see Alexis constantly protecting and trying to do damage control of her kids, her grandchild, and she'll do anything to protect her family. So now imagine history repeating in a new outfit. Alexis tries to contain fallout for the greater good. And Kristina sees this or reads this as betrayal. And once that arc starts bleeding into daylight, you don't get to choose who hears it. Because in Port Charles, someone is always in the hallway. And once Kristina starts screaming, that's when pieces of Kristina, Alexis, Rick, Ava storyline start leaking out. Not because anyone wants healing, but because people start using old truths like weapons. Alexis protects her family, and everyone else pays the bill. Let's go back to someone is always listening in Port Charles. It's not just a straight sentence. A name, Rick, Ava, Kristina, said too sharp, too loud, too panicked. And Molly catches just enough to know one thing: her family is keeping something from her. Maybe she goes to Cody. Maybe she keeps digging. But Cody's someone Molly may be able to go to when she's needing this truth, especially without the sugar. Molly shows up, tell me I'm crazy, or tell me I'm right. And if Molly cracks open to Cody, Cody might finally go full transparency. Not as gossip, but as a warning. Like, oh, you think this is new? You don't know the half of it. And that's the Molly fallout. She stops waiting for the truth and starts hunting for it. Now let's make it worse, because GH always makes it worse. If Michael is also charged, Curtis loses. Not emotionally, but financially. Because Curtis is building Aurora. He's got a brand, a business, a public-facing, I'm stable, invest in me image. And if his close orbit gets tied to attempted murder charges, his stock could tank. And that's exactly how GH writes Fallout. They don't just threaten hearts, they threaten livelihoods. So imagine Trina, knowing that it's Willow, goes to Curtis. Not because she wants any drama, but because she knows Curtis is about to get hit by splash damage. And the second Curtis hears it, his mission changes. Now he doesn't just want justice, he needs a result. He needs Michael cleared and Willow exposed. Because if Michael's name stays dirty, Curtis's whole foundation gets shaky. So Curtis becomes another pressure point in this case. A man who needs the truth, but also needs the truth to land in a specific way. And that is how people get ruthless. And this is where Nina gets pulled into the blast radius. Because Nina is always going to Nina. She'll justify, she'll spin, she'll protect Willow like it's a moral identity. But Curtis, after the Trina conversation, is no longer dealing with Nina as messy. He's dealing with Nina as an obstacle. Because if Nina protects Willow, she's protecting the person who shot Drew, while Michael takes the hit. And if Curtis thinks Michael is being used as a shield, well, then Nina becomes complicit by association. So now you've got a new divide. Curtis isn't just side-eyeing Nina, he's going to war with her. Because for Curtis, this isn't just right versus wrong. It's survival. It's reputation. It's money. It's everything he's building. Now, let's go to Drew. Drew will somehow find a way to back out of his deal with Alexis. He will ensure that she will not get access to Scout. And it's not just because Alexis may wind up helping Diane. It's also this. If Drew finds out that Alexis knew the truth and didn't tell him, well, that's where the retaliation turns personal. Because then Drew doesn't just punish Alexis with custody. He punishes her with isolation. He makes Scout the message. And when custody becomes a weapon, the adults stop behaving like adults, and they behave like people fighting for survival. Now let's talk Willow's pivot. Once Michael is charged and the custody picture shifts, Willow may realize she doesn't need Drew, not emotionally and not legally. So yes, she could leave him, divorce, separation, exit strategy, however she chooses. And Drew, if he suspects she shot him or suspects she used him, he's not going to react like a heartbroken man. He's going to react like a man protecting a brand. He'll look for a way to control the narrative, as he often does, and control custody. And that's where the custody war gets ugly. Because Willow leaving Drew doesn't end the trap. It tightens it. Now let's shift to the PCPD. Dante has questioned Brennan about the evidence. But Dante is doing a lot of questioning himself right now, which means he might not go full scorched earth immediately. He keeps Brennan on the radar. He logs the vibe, watches the tells, but here's the twist. The longer that Chase keeps defending Willow, especially after this acquittal, the more Dante starts questioning Chase. Because at a certain point, I'm protecting the innocent starts sounding like I'm protecting my version of Willow. So the bigger divide isn't automatically Brennan versus Chase, not yet. It becomes that only if something pulls these threads together and the wrong person finds out what Dante suspects. Now let's bring Trina where she belongs, in the friend group blast zone. Trina doesn't go to Joss with the information that she suspects it's Willow. She goes to Alexis first, and then she goes elsewhere, but not Joss. And let's face it, Trina really takes it to Geo first and loops him in. Joss will feel this as a statement, not just, wait, you didn't tell me, but you didn't trust me. And the Brennan problem doesn't even have to be proven for it to poison the air. If Joss has even a flicker of doubt that Brennan sabotaged her brother for his own greater want, desire, need, that doubt will snowball into paranoia fast. So Joss is hit from both sides, Trina keeping her out, and the possibility that the adults are playing chess with her family. And in that headspace, Joss doesn't ask permission. She starts making moves. Trina keeps the truth from Joss, and Joss starts keeping score. Now here's where procedure becomes personal. Dante is doing that thing he does, acting calm while his brain runs like a scanner. He mentions something offhand, a chain of custody gap, a timestamp that doesn't line up, a file that was accessed, but somehow never officially viewed. And Joss hears one sentence and clocks the whole story. If it was accessed, it existed. So she goes hunting. She gets the name of the system, she gets the location of the export terminal, something. She gets one compromised login from someone who shouldn't talk, but does anyway. And again, this is kind of a throwback and very reminiscent of how she even got involved with the WSB, with Brennan showing her evidence that he may not have had access to. And these systems always leave a footprint. She somehow finds it. A mirrored export, a sent to address, a buried copy that never got fully wiped. Then there it is. Willow at the scene. Willow at the door. And now Joss understands the real crime, not the shooting, the cleanup. Because the story says Michael was there, but the footage of Michael, we don't even know if that exists. And the footage that is there is Willow, which means someone didn't just lose evidence, someone curated it. And if Joss suspects Brennan removed evidence, she doesn't have to confront him. She can go around him. If she finds the photo, she'll send it to the DA. And that's what makes Joss dangerous in this era. She doesn't just react, she moves pieces. So imagine this. Joss thinks, if Brennan is playing chess, so am I. And then she drops the files like a grenade. Now, yes, double jeopardy means Willow can't be charged again for the same crime. But that doesn't make the truth harmless. It makes the truth political. Because once those images hit daylight, Nina starts scrambling, Brennan gets exposed, and the blast radius gets huge. This isn't a clue. It's a breadcrumb with teeth. If we follow it, we'll watch who bleeds. Now let's bring in Geo, because this isn't random. Geo wasn't just floating around with an opinion. Trina and Kai asked Geo to have Wiley call Michael, and that changes Geo's position in the storyline. Because now Geo isn't just a spectator, he's a participant. So when Geo believes Willow did it, it hits harder. Because he's been close enough to see the ripples. And Geo mentions that Wiley called to Brook Lynn. Brook Lynn takes it to Dante. And that's where the timeline starts to click. because Dante already knows the video footage went missing. So now he's stacking details: the missing footage, a child being used as a bridge to Michael, and Michael already telling him what he believed and how Willow interfered with Daisy. And if Joss resurfaces footage that should have been gone, that's when Dante stops wondering and starts hunting. So Dante isn't just tracking a suspect, he's tracking a cover-up. And while all of that is happening, Chase is in full hero mode. I'm the good guy. I see the best in Willow. Watch your brother. But Brook Lynn and Tracy, they've already shared their concern that Chase is willing to throw his career away for a version of someone he thinks he knows. So now Chase isn't just on the other side of the case, he's on the other side of his own home. Because if Brook Lynn believes Gio, and Dante believes Brook Lynn and Gio, then Chase becomes the lone defender in a room full of doubt. And that's how marriages don't just crack, they polarize. Now let's talk about what happens when Brennan gets exposed. Because this isn't just Brennan looks shady. This is Carly realizing she's been played, and the reason it's worse, Brennan didn't remove evidence for fun. He did it to get info connected to Charlotte. So when Brennan crosses a line, it doesn't just hit Carly, it hits the whole triangle. Carly, Brennan, Valentine, and Charlotte, well, she's tangled in that pressure cooker. So when the truth comes out, that's Lulu, Charlotte, and Valentine turning their full rage toward Nina. Because in that moment, Nina isn't messy, she's complicit. And complicit is the word that ends friendships. So let me land this. The point isn't the gun, the point is the fallout engine. Trina and Kai go to Alexis first. But what they do next decides who gets protected and who gets sacrificed. Alexis speaks with Diane early, so the legal war is already active. Michael gets charged, custody tilts, and Alexis is forced to face the cost of the choices she made. Kristina turns that pain into rage, and old Ava-Rick history starts bleeding into daylight. Molly hears enough to know she's being kept out, and Cody becomes the truth teller or the truth pusher. Curtis realizes this case can ruin his money, so he fights for Michael like his future depends on it. And Nina becomes the obstacle in his way. Drew backs out and weaponizes Scout, especially if he learns Alexis knew the truth and stayed quiet. Dante keeps Brennan on the radar, watches Chase's hero mode, and starts collecting patterns. Joss hears chain of custody gap and turns it into an evidence drop. Gio becomes the relay, Brook Lynn becomes the amplifier, and Dante starts building a timeline he can't ignore. Because in Port Charles, double jeopardy might protect you in court, but it won't protect you from the consequences. Now tell me this. After Alexis, who do you think Trina and Kai go to next? Curtis? Diane? Dante? Or do they finally go to Joss? If Joss resurfaces footage showing Willow at the scene, do you want her to send it anonymously or confront Brennan first? If Michael sits in Pentonville through trial, do you think custody swings toward Willow? And does that become the moment Kristina fully turns on Alexis? And if Molly realizes her family is keeping something from her, does Cody push her to confront them? Or does he tell her what he knows? Drop your take, because the Fallout engine is already in motion. Same town, new Fallout. This has been Port Charles Confidential. Stay suspicious.